Hi, I'm Rob. I have retinitis pigmentosa and I'm registered severely sight impaired or blind. And these are Ask Me Anything questions. Part 2.
Why do some people who are blind use guide dogs and some use a cane? And also, would a guide dog help with all types of blindness?
Great question. These are really good questions. Okay, so guide dogs versus canes. Not everybody can get a guide dog. I don't know the ins and outs, and again, I'd love to chat to guide dogs. But from what I know of people that have guide dogs, is that there's quite a process of getting one. You have to go through training, and not every dog is suitable to every owner. So I know some people that it's taken 4 or 5 attempts to actually settle on a dog. You know, it's not as easy as this is a guide dog, this is a blind person, here you go. It's got to be a relationship that works. Now, there are some people in the world, unbelievably, that don't like dogs. Also, you have to think about the welfare of the dog, the upkeep of it, the feeding, picking up the poo. So I found this out. This is a complete side quest. But by law, blind people don't have to pick up dog poo. Back to guide dogs. They are really expensive. I think it costs about £40,000 to train a guide dog from puppy to being fully working. So there's the cost option. It's not a simple process, and also there's normally a really long waiting list. And if you're like me and you want to go to the shop to buy milk now, I don't need to be waiting 2 years to get a guide dog to be able to go and do that. I want to be independent now. I don't want to have to wait for it. So it's difficult with guide dogs because they are fantastic for helping people and for helping them navigate. But a lot of blind people have a guide dog and they still use a cane. But some people aren't comfortable with the cane. So I think only 7% of blind people or visually impaired people that could and should use canes actually do, because of the stigma, because of what people are thinking, what they're saying about them. It's quite a big deal to use a white cane because people assume that you can't see anything. So a lot of people don't want that assumption made, and they don't like the thought that other people are judging them. And I've got quite big shoulders and I still get quite concerned about walking through town, what teenagers are going to say, what's going to happen to me, blah, blah, blah. But you kind of get past it. The guide dog is quite a safe option because I've never encountered someone with a guide dog that you haven't thought, oh man, that is amazing, can I stroke you? It just doesn't have the same negative association as a man with a white cane walking down the road. And because I have enough sight, I can see how my white cane affects people, and they look at it and it's all part. Lauren laughs, I'm like Moses, I part the sea of people with my white cane because people are like, well, I don't know what to do. When you see a guide dog or a service dog, people associate that really easily. So yeah, a guide dog can be an easier thing for people to have. It's companionship. You know, a lot of blind people feel isolated, so having a guide dog is a really nice thing. The other reason that I don't have one is because my 4 dogs are a bit of a rowdy bunch, and I think they would teach a guide dog bad tricks. And so I'd end up with a guide dog that is not a guide dog at all. It'd just end up being another pet that's cost £40,000 to train, and then it's just part of the pack.
Do you watch the show Daredevil, which is about the blind superhero?
Well, I am actually Daredevil. I don't know if you can tell, but I am Matt Murdock. So yes, I've heard of him, definitely. It's interesting. I've got my own thoughts on it. As a blind person, I can see how that would be very cool, but also there's little flaws in the Daredevil character, but that's probably what makes it great. It's got some skills. His hearing is very good, although not when someone bangs a church bell. Like that, he can't deal with that apparently.
Okay, we're coming on to a question now, which is a very popular question that's been asked. I expect they're all men. It has never occurred to me to ask a blind person this question. It's a toilet-based question.
Okay.
How do you know when you're done wiping your ass? We don't have to include it in the video by any means.
No, if the fans want to know, when we say about a heightened sense of touch and a heightened sense of smell, there's an element of both, right? So yeah, I mean, I don't know what. So people that can see, do you wipe your butt and then look at it?
This is what
so that's my question back. So the element of touch is there. So I've definitely had moments where you kind of overspill the toilet paper you've got, and then it's like, that probably requires a second go. The normal everyday thing is that because I eat quite healthy, there's not a lot of stuff to wipe up afterwards. So normally it's a feeling. You just know by how the paper feels whether it's done the job or not. To be honest, I thought the question was going to be aiming the dude, because we're in the toilet talking about toilet stuff. For anyone that's interested, there's a few ways. Sometimes if it's a small place, Lauren will kind of line me up. Otherwise, I'll just go to a cubicle and treat myself to a sit down. I love a sit down wee, so that's how I know for sure that it's hitting the mark. Urinals can be quite good. The issue with urinals is I have to feel like I stand close enough so I can't miss. The problem with that is you get a lot of splashback, so that isn't pleasant. So I tend to always treat myself to a sit down wee. Worst case scenario, if I'm absolutely busting and I can't find the toilet, the safest place is sometimes in the sink. But that's absolutely rank, and that's only like, proper worst case scenario.
Can you read Braille / do you ever use Braille?
When we travel, the cabin crew are always very helpful, and I made the lady on a plane really laugh because she brought over a Braille edition of the card, and I was like, great, thank you. I can't read Braille. And she just found it hilarious that a blind person couldn't read Braille. A lot of us can't. Again, I'm not completely blind, so I'm very fortunate that I can use my iPhone, take a photo, like the really small lettering I can zoom in on. I wouldn't know how to read Braille. I wouldn't even know. I've got a t-shirt saying blind athlete that I wore for my first park run, and it's got Braille on it. I don't actually know if that even says what I think it says, so I might have been running park run offending people in Braille without knowing. And another funny story, when I moved to Norwich and I met Lauren's grandparents for the first time, her granddad's, I told them that I was starting my own business because I was finding it hard to get work. I started my own business. He said, Rob, that's fantastic, but I think you should teach blind people how to read Braille. And I was like, that's a great idea, Les, but I can't read Braille myself. It's very complex. It's really, it's like learning a different language. But it's all done by touch. It's not as common as it was. I think because of technology and smartphones, etc. I don't know. I don't think it will ever become something that isn't in the world.
What were things that you started to do to adapt, knowing in advance that you were gonna lose your sight or that your sight was gonna deteriorate?
Great question. These are well good questions. I like nice things. So just having a nice house, having nice holidays. So it's always really important for me that I was going to be able to work. So that was something that I paid a lot of attention to. There were a lot of things that I wanted to do when I was younger, but I also knew that I would have to prepare myself to do a job that I could do probably with my hands. So my grandfather lost his sight and he was a carpenter, and he carried on working when his sight was lost, but he was great with his hands. I'm terrible at DIY. I didn't inherit them genes. But yeah, I just knew I was going to need to have a profession where I was going to be able to use my hands, and that was that. So that's the main thing that I focused on. Everything else, I felt like I would deal with that as it came up. I think other people feel my disability worse for me than I feel it for myself, because it's never been something that I wanted to define me as a person. So I've dealt with it very matter-of-factly, and actually a lot of disabled people deal with their disabilities in a completely matter-of-fact, it is what it is, and I get on with it, because the alternative is just to feel bad about your situation and kind of pull away from the world, and that's really sad. So that was never an option for me. And the funny thing is that when I was at school sitting my GCSEs and my mocks, that was when my eyesight had started getting worse, and I was given glasses to wear at school. And if you're short-sighted, I think this is something that everyone's experienced at some point. You go into the opticians and you can't see very well, so they say, right, try on these glasses. What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. And I put on these glasses and was like, yeah, they look really cool. And then I got them with lenses in, and they did not look cool at all. I had 2 pairs and I was so embarrassed that I didn't wear either pair. So I actually got in more trouble for not doing my homework and not doing my schoolwork because I just didn't want to get bullied for or teased for having these horrific glasses that I picked from the opticians. I felt so bad for my parents. My parents had spent money buying glasses, and I was like, oh my God, I can't wear these. So the only time recently that I've had a real freak out has been when I got the floaters in my eyesight, which I have now. That really scared me because that was something that wasn't predictable, and I just woke up and was like, wow, okay, this is new. And it took about 7 months before I could get to speak to my ophthalmologist at the hospital, and he just said that's part of having RP and getting older. It's just one of those things. And so they're part of me now. The floaters are there, and as annoying as they are, it's just part of my progression, so I'm good with that.
Is it true that blind people can have difficulty sleeping as they don't have visual cues of light and dark which regulate the circadian rhythm?
Yes, I think it is. I believe so. I spoke to someone about this, and a lot of it is temperature. So because the temperature gets cooler at night normally, then that helps. And setting up routines. So the routine of going to bed, sometimes that helps. That would be a really interesting question for some of my blinder friends.
Are there any particular environments that are quite difficult for you? For example, cobbles, beaches, grass?
Specifically with the cane, yes, there are. However, the clever people that work at Ambutech, they are always innovating and developing ways to make things easier, because a normal cane is great. However, if you've ever walked out with me or a blind person, it is constantly getting stuck on pavements, on curbs, on everything, and you end up just getting stabbed by your own cane all day long. That is really tricky. So yeah, cobbles and paving slabs and all kinds of stuff. You know, it's difficult when there's workmen or women, work people doing construction work, etc. The temporary ramps, the things, the cables, the whatever, it's all there to sort of trip us up. So that can make it very difficult. But the great thing is, and we will be looking at some of this stuff in other videos, there's great things going on to help cane users get around more efficiently.
What kind of tips and tricks do blind people have for choosing clothes from the wardrobe, putting on makeup, etc.?
So I'm lucky I can rely on my wife to get stuff. She's quite good. I'm quite good at having a lot of black bottoms and colourful t-shirts. So I'm pretty sure that if I pull out a pair of shorts, they're either going to be black or they're going to be very colourful. So I have my wardrobe arranged in some sort of colour order. I don't get it right 100% of the time, but I normally either go really bright or very dark. The dark stuff is very comfortable because I can get out whatever shirt from that side and know that it's a dark shirt. So, but I love colour, but it's more often than not, if I have to do stuff myself because Lauren's gone away, then I will just play safe and I'll just get black stuff because I know that matches and there's no problem. I didn't talk about makeup though. My comment would be go and check out someone like Claire.
If a blind person is navigating a familiar space, for example, their own staircase, would you use something like a cane, or do you just count the steps because you know the environment well?
I don't tend to use my cane in familiar spaces, and this is something that I am working on because I am fiercely independent. So when I'm in a familiar place, like home, I don't use my cane. If I am walking around where I live, I've lived there for a long time and I know where it is. So I know where I'm at, so I feel comfortable moving around on my own. The problem is that I'm very aware that other people don't know how disabled I am if I don't show them how disabled I am. And that's where the sweet spot comes of, I want to be independent, but I also need to keep myself and other people safe. But at home, I can navigate in the dark better than anyone can because I know exactly where it is. I count steps. If I go to a hotel, I'm counting steps because I can use the cane, but also I've got a good memory of there's 13 steps and it turns to the left and there's 4 more steps because that's just how I've got through my life, and so far not had many accidents.
Several months later.
Touch wood, where's the wood? Is there wood under it? Yeah, somewhere, there's wood. Yeah, touch wood, I'm all good. So if you're still watching at this point, thank you. I hope you found it interesting. If you did, the only way I'm going to know that it's been interesting is if you like it. Give me a little subscribe as well. That always helps. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, but it makes me feel so much better. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it and hope to see you soon.